There are loads of cancer communities across social media. We are very, very fortunate to live in this age of internet. And they made this journey so much better. They were there to answer, what should I do when I'm going for chemotherapy? They were there to answer, hey, this cream is irritating my skin. Is there something else I should be using? They were there to answer what to eat. They are there to solve your career problems, which you may face as a cancer patient, which nobody else can quite understand. They're there to make you feel less lonely. So again, mental health works differently for everybody, and I don't know if what I am saying jives for everybody, but we all have to find ways to tackle that and find a way to, kind of get through this, because at the end of the day, you have to get through it one way or the other. Might as well make it a good journey.
Good day, everyone. Welcome to the VoCP Talks, a platform to empower the cancer community. Our guest speaker today is Jayanti Chakraborty. She is a project manager and a two-time cancer survivor. She was diagnosed with ovarian and endometrial cancers and is currently also a cancer advocate who aims to spread cancer awareness and demystify cancer myths. So thank you so much for joining us on today's session. Shall we get started with the questions?
Absolutely. And thank you so much for having me here.
Tell us about getting diagnosed with these two cancers and the various treatments you had to undergo.
Sure. So back in April of 2021, I started feeling a lot of discomfort, a lot of bloating and gut-related issues, something which I'd never faced ever in my adult life. And this was also during the peak COVID times.
Yeah.
So we did a lot of online consultations with the doctors, and I was advised a host of things, from bowel movement issues to imagining I have an illness and a lot of other such things. But I just kept getting sicker and I was not getting any relief. And then one day I sat down and I was like, so how do I feel? I kind of went through my own body consciousness awareness to understand what happens when, what triggers what. And I realized that every time I had my periods, I would feel slightly better. So I thought maybe this could be a gynecological problem instead of some kind of a stomach gut issue. Fortunately, through some of my very close friends, I was able to reach out to my current medical team, and they diagnosed me back in June of 2021 with two independent cancers. One was an ovarian stage 3 cancer, and the other was an endometrial or uterus stage 3 cancer. They were two independent cancers. They were not one leading to the other. I went through a very intensive surgery in July of that year, followed by 6 rounds of chemotherapy. And in January of 2022, I was declared to be what is called technically in remission. However, the remission period was kind of short-lived. And in August of 2022, during a routine checkup, it was discovered that my endometrial cancer, the uterine cancer, had actually metastasized. And now there were lesions on my lung, and there was growth around my lymph nodes. I went back on intense chemotherapy for several months. And then through various tests and everything, in January of this year, I was officially told that I am a chronic cancer patient, or what can be called an incurable cancer patient. I will be on some kind of a chemotherapy, a target therapy or something for a pretty long time. It may go away miraculously, but at this point, the idea is to control it, and then we'll see how it goes. So, yeah, very long story of my diagnosis, but pretty much that.
Even getting diagnosed took a while for you.
Yes. It was a lot of self-advocacy, and I often talk about this, that especially as a young cancer patient, we often get dismissed about our symptoms. There is this, I have no idea why, because the cancer burden among the youth, that age of 15 to 39 is on the rise. 15 to 45, in fact, is on the rise. And yet there is so much of disbelief about this. So, yes, it took me a while to get diagnosed. I was still fortunate to finally get diagnosed. I know of, friends and peers whose situation deteriorated even further while trying to find somebody to diagnose them correctly. We get diagnosed for all kinds of ridiculous things, except, like I said, one doctor actually dismissed my sentence saying that you're imagining this illness. And I remember this one thing they said, that do not Google your symptoms and think you have cancer. I have cancer. So there is a lot of self-advocacy you have to do. I went through 5 rounds of doctors before I found a medical team which took my symptoms seriously, which knew there is something seriously wrong. And that's something I would say to all our viewers also today, that, it could be nothing. And I hope and pray for everyone it is nothing. But if you feel some discomfort constantly, find yourself a medical team. It could take you 1 round, 2 round, 3 round, 4 round, 5 round, 6 rounds. But find somebody who can help you. Don't advocate for yourself. Don't let that go. Don't think that just because, of course, they have a medical degree, they have an experience, but it's your body. You know what your body is telling you. So talk about it.
And after you were diagnosed, how did it affect your mental health and your lifestyle?
So I often say this to a lot of people, and it's there on my page always, that, when you get diagnosed, people tend to think that, even I thought that this is a physical ailment. It is definitely a physical ailment. But this is one physical ailment which actually is very all-comprehensive. It takes over every part of your life. It is completely subsuming. Physically, there are so many changes. There is the fact that, you're definitely sick. There is probably a organ or several organs of your body which would be impacted. In some cases, we may have to even take them out. Like in my case, they had to take out my entire reproductive system. There is the physical discomfort of the treatment, chemotherapy, surgery, radiation. None of these are easy. Chemotherapy is a very toxic medication. And again, while we have really progressed in medical science in terms of, how chemotherapy is treated, and usually all doctors, and I was so lucky to have my doctors, they kind of buffer you up for against all kinds of side effects. But at the end of the day, it is still medication. It is a lot of medication. So there is that aspect of it. You become increasingly weak. You may develop other complications, like I have developed anemia. I've developed a breathlessness. You may gain weight. You may lose weight. Your hair may obviously go. Your, very simple things. Skin complexion might get impacted. So physically, your body is completely transformed. A lot of cancer patients will tell you when they look at themselves in the mirror, they do not recognize themselves. And this kind of stems into how we undergo the mental aspect of it, so to speak. Because suddenly how we are, how we look, our identity about that goes away. There is this whole concept, it's only hair. It's not only hair, it is part of our identity. It is how we think of ourselves. It's our self-image, self-worth, self-respect. And all of these things kind of come into play because your entire understanding of who you are is changing with the physical presence. Then, of course, the medicine is bringing in many cases, hormonal changes. Your tastes are changing, your behavior is changing, you do not have the energy. You have to make conscious choices about what you can do and what you can't do, which in turn again affects your idea of self-esteem and self-worth. There are these extremely low moments of, why is this happening to me? What is happening to me? There are a lot of painful days about not only just what is happening to you, but there is Your family, they're watching you go through this and they are in so much of pain and they can't do anything about this. So there is that element as well. So it's a very holistic, subsuming disease. First of all illnesses are bad. Let me just caveat that. Any illness is bad. Nobody should fall ill. But there are degrees of illness. And in that degree of illness, I mean, you can take a medication, an antibiotic, and be well in a few days. This is a very long process. It's also a very unknown process because at the end of the day, while there is a lot of medical science which is backing up today's treatment, how your body reacts to it, even the best doctors cannot really find. I mean, your body is an individual thing and it will react individually. So there are these aspects to it, and of course there is this constant fear of what will happen if medicines don't work, and I don't want to die, and I don't want to die. So it changes your perspectives. It really makes you stop and think about, I don't want to sound very philosophical, but truly what really matters in life. You make choices about your career. Your friends may no longer be your friends because nobody wants to be with a sick person, or I don't know, there's some stigma attached to being a cancer patient, which I'm still figuring out why. So the life that you knew or you had is very different from the life which was turning on. Like going into 2021 as a red-haired, waist-length red-haired corporate executive with a very busy social calendar, I would have never imagined 2 years down the line how different life will be. Nobody thinks that way because the future you had planned is completely gone away. Everything has gone away and you have to build everything up, including your health, from the scratch. So yeah, it's a very all-consuming disease. It's not just physical, it's also a lot of mental.
So, since this diagnosis and the treatment put so much stress on your mental health, how did it affect your relationships with your friends, family?
I was fortunate than most in having a very close family circle, which gave me a lot of strength. My elder sister has been my primary caregiver, and she's been the rock, through everything that I've gone through in the last 3 years, through the heartbreaks, the disillusionment, the physical discomfort, everything. So when you have somebody like that with you, it gives you a lot of strength. And then I was very fortunate in my uncle and aunts. My uncle had given me this advice just at the beginning of my diagnosis that, and I always say the diagnosis period is the worst because you don't know what is going to happen and you're still processing that this has happened to you. So that, I always say, if you can get through that phase, you can pretty much manage anything after that. So that period is the worst, and I was in that phase, and there was this one day when I had spent the whole day just crying about how could this happen to me, and just when I was getting ready to take the next steps of my life. And then my uncle sat me down and he was like, look, what has happened is really sad, but what you gonna do about it? And he said something very interesting and very sensible, and I then retail this advice to everybody. He said, if you stay strong, everything else will fall into place. And that is the bottom line truth. This is a disease where the mind really, really impacts how you are going to recover. Your mind has a lot of play in the game. You have to keep yourself strong. It's not easy. I'm not saying for a minute it's easy. It's very hard. I have breakdowns. I have severe breakdowns. I have days when I don't want to do anything. There are days when I'm just raging about, how unfair this whole process is, because here you are struggling to get up from the bed and your peers are moving on in their lives, getting married, getting promoted, getting a house, and you can't even get up from the bed. It is that harrowing. Nobody gets you. Nobody gets you. Nobody understands what you're talking about. The whole conception is, again, I'll go back to the antibiotic example, that once you're done with the chemotherapy, you'll be well. No, it's not. That's not how it works. And of course, there is always that thing that, there may be a stigma attached to this disease, or people just don't see any value in you anymore, or whatever, that whatever social circles you thought you had built, they will break away. Ghosting is very real for cancer patients. Ghosting is the truth. And unless you've been through that, it doesn't hit home, but it's the truth. So there are all of these things which are happening, which are taking, like you said, a stress on you. But there are a couple of things which you have to do to stay strong. First of all, you have to believe. You have to believe in something. It could be anything. It could be your own belief on yourself. Like when my reoccurrence happened in 2022, when I shared it with some of my close friends, including my sister, who was very worried that this had come back. The first thing I told her, I am not going to die. I mean, we all have to die, but I'm not going to die about this. And not so soon. I'm going to be here for at least 40 years, come what may. So you have to have that belief. It can be difficult, but you have to pep talk yourself constantly. Having some people you can trust is very important. I had my sister, I have a couple of my friends, I have a few family members I'm very close to. And, they all have their own place in how they kind of give me the support. My sister is there for all kinds of practical needs, emotional needs, the up and downs that you go through every day. She's there. My uncle and aunt are there to give me that parental affection, love, and, support system. My friends are there when I want to go, guys, I'm just so sick, can we go out, please, let's go out somewhere. Or when I went to Went, or when, I need a good makeup, we'll go makeup shopping together, that kind of stuff. I have some work besties who are aware of my situation and who can, days help me navigate through some of those crazy days, like when I can't do so much of work, or when we can barely do bare minimum. And then I found a lot of mental strength and a place to kind of feel more comfortable through the cancer communities. There are loads of cancer communities across social media. We are very, very fortunate to live in this age of internet. And they made this journey so much better. They were there to answer, what should I do when I'm going for chemotherapy? They were there to answer, hey, this cream is irritating my skin. Is there something else I should be using? They were there to answer what to eat. They are there to solve your career problems, which you may face as a cancer patient, which nobody else can quite understand. They're there to make you feel less lonely. So again, mental health works differently for everybody, and I don't know if what I am saying jives for everybody, but we all have to find ways to tackle that and find a way to, kind of get through this, because at the end of the day, you have to get through it one way or the other. Might as well make it a good journey.
So this diagnosis and the treatment brought you to this path of becoming a cancer advocate. So when did you decide to do this, and what motivated you?
So I'm somebody who really, really likes to know what I'm getting into, whether it's work, whether it's personal, whether it's a project, whether it's a passion project, whatever. I need to know what I'm getting into. So when I was diagnosed, my approach was pretty similar. I needed to know what I was getting into. What is this disease? How does that impact? What is going to happen? So on and so forth. And I read several books before my surgery. I joined several communities. And by the time my surgery and then my chemotherapy came around, I was very much aware of what was going to happen. And because I was aware, I was also able to, I believe, navigate the journey much more comfortably. Like when my doctors would tell me that, all right, in surgery, we would do this, I'd be like, okay, that makes sense. Yes, I know that term. So it wasn't about getting lost. So I always felt that this kind of community really helps. What happened was, I started going for my chemo sessions. And in the chemo lounge, I started talking to a lot of other patients. And that is the time when I realized that there is a lot of myths pertaining to cancer and how it's treated. So essentially, as I spoke to more people, both in the chemo lounge and outside, I realized there are three things which are happening. One, people didn't want to talk about this disease at all. There was this belief if you talk about it, you somehow call it, which is ridiculous. For a developing country, we have excellent medical infrastructures available everywhere for early diagnosis, screening, and all of that. But we've got our head in, we've just decided we are going to bury our head in the sand and not talk about it until it's very, very late. So that's one. Second, once you get diagnosed, there are these, they're just ridiculous things that you start believing in. Like sugar feeds cancer, don't eat vegetables, don't eat fruits. There's something that it's just ridiculous amount of nonsense which was going on. And third, while again we have great doctors and we have great support systems and everything, the post-treatment life, that's very different. And that's, again, going back to the antibiotic example, just because you take a medicine doesn't mean your life comes back to circle. It's very different for cancer patients. Yeah. And there isn't enough resource, especially in our country, to tackle that. So I am not any of those people who believe that, all right, there's a problem and somebody will solve it. I just wanted to go ahead and solve it. And that's what brought me to advocacy. I wanted to help people normalize the discussion about cancer. I wanted to make all cancer patients comfortable, at least as comfortable as they can get, and feel less lonely about the journey. And I wanted to create a safe space where they could talk about things that they may not always be comfortable talking to their doctors or even their families.
So, cancer patients go through a lot of financial stress once they're diagnosed.
Yes.
Do you think there are any ways that this could be alleviated and things could be made better?
Yeah, so the first thing first is, for anyone who's watching this who's not been touched by cancer, please get yourself an insurance. That's the first thing. Do not think, it will never happen to me, blah, blah. I hope it never happens to you. I sincerely hope. But what is worse is if it happens to you and you do not have the financial wherewithal to fight it. So please get that insurance. Paying whatever the minimum premium amount is annually, it's worth it. It's a good investment. Trust me on that. So get yourself an insurance right now if you don't have one. There are loads of options. You can go for anything that suits your budget. So if you don't have cancer, get that insurance. Now, if you have cancer, there are a couple of things which you could do to find some relief. First things first, depending on your income group, there are lots of state-sponsored programs which you can leverage. West Bengal government, government of Kerala, Punjab government, they all run a lot of state support funding programs which are available. Even the Ministry of Health and Welfare Services has some programs which are available. There's a lot of information on the site which you can look up. There are some great organizations like the India Cancer Society, which can help you get some funding to support your treatment. The second thing which I think always helps is having a very transparent conversation with your doctor about your finances. Telling them that this is what it is. I can't pay for it. Chances are there will always be some second-tier or third-tier option which you can leverage, which are equally efficient and may cost you a little less. So you can always do that. The other thing which can be done, which is something which is leveraged abroad a lot, in the Western countries a lot, but something which we should start talking about in India as well. A lot of these medical companies, in return for sharing your recovery information, will give you the medications at a lower cost or free of charge. So essentially, they take your data and they make it a part of a larger validation circle, test circle, standardized test circles and all that. And in return, they give you the medication. They usually, you become part of their testing data sample pool. So that may be a very good option for a lot of expensive medications. And especially these big pharmas definitely offer those services. You can talk to the pharmaceutical companies directly, or even any of the advocacy groups can help you get in touch with them. So that's something you can do. The other thing which you can do is if you have any kind of loans or mortgage, you may want to talk to your bank. Usually banks, when they are selling you a loan or a mortgage or something like that, they also sell you some kind of a coverage, insurance, etc. So and again, it depends on bank to bank and the kind of loan you have. But some of these banks may also give you some kind of a short-term relief on your repayment, giving you some kind of a cash flow while you're at it, while you're getting your treatment. But again, speak to your banks and figure that out. Finally, and most importantly, check your bill, check your bill, check your bill. There are a lot of things which get added to your bill which needn't be added, and you need to figure out why it's been added. You can negotiate with the hospitals. I found it personally very useful in having my sister manage some of these finances. See, when you're sick, you cannot really talk. I mean, at some point you're like, yeah, let me just pay and get out of it. But if you have somebody with you who can look through the bill and can talk straight and say, hey, this was not charged and this needs to be done, that can help you save a lot of money as well. So have somebody who can manage that hospital, insurance, payment stuff, because otherwise you'll just end up paying a lot of things which maybe you don't need to pay for. But first things first, if you're well, get that insurance.
So a reliable support system is extremely important for a cancer patient while going through these treatments.
Yes.
And after these treatments for a cancer patient, it's a bit more difficult to transition back into normal life, like their job, their relationships. So do you have any tips on how that could be made a bit smoother?
Yeah, so like I said, cancer changes everything. It's a very subsuming thing. It changes everything. And when you get off the treatment, that is when your recovery period actually starts. So while you're going back into the society, so to speak, you're also in the recovery phase. So again, to break it down, there are a couple of physical things to be done and there are a couple of emotional things to be done. Physically, you have to start taking extremely good care of yourself. You have to eat even when you don't want to, and you have to eat the right things, even if sometimes they taste like grass. Like for me, salads always taste like grass. Eat the right things. Uh, Work out, even if it just kills you to get up every morning. Work out. Your body, the new cells can only be built when you work out. There is no other way to build those new cells. So work out. To ensure that you get enough rest. Don't push yourself. You're not superhuman. Just because you've finished your radiation or chemotherapy doesn't mean you're well. No, you're not. That is just the time you start recovering. So take enough rest. From a mental point of view, there are a couple of things happening here. I often say this, that there is no returning to the BC, which is the before cancer era. We are now in the cancer era, CA. Because the life that you had led and the life that you're now leading is very different because you are very different. You had a very close brush with death and your body has transformed. And that whole process transforms you. So your perspectives changed. Your support systems may have changed. Your circles may have changed. Your understanding of priority may have changed. There may be a lot of PTSD associated with cancer. So get yourself some therapy if you think that helps you. Again, therapy is such a stigma word in this country, but it's such a great thing. And if you feel that, because you have gone through intense transformation over a period of 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, and it's inhuman what you've gone through, what your body has gone through, what mentally you have to put yourself through. So get yourself therapy if you need. You find yourself a good therapist who can trust you. Ask your doctors, they can refer you to somebody. So find yourself a therapist. Even the greatest athletes in the world need coaching. So there is no harm in getting some help. Do that. The other aspect of a survivor is the fear of reoccurrence. And it's a very real fear because, again, to go back to my flu, antibiotic disease, this can come back. There is no, every doctor worth their salt, when they are giving you the first consultation or telling you that you're well now, will tell you that while we hope this doesn't, there is every possibility that it will come back. So living with that fear, understanding that fear, acknowledging that fear, finding resources to help you with that fear. That's very, very important. And then this one thing you should do when you are sick. You should make a list of all the things you want to do when you get well. And then once you get well, go ahead and do those things. It does wonders for your mind. It does wonders for your confidence. And you just went through this humongous struggle to do just that. So go ahead and do with that. And yeah, things will look up a lot more.
Okay. I think it's time we end the session. So if anybody in the audience has any questions, please mention them in the chat. I think there are no questions. So
Yes.
we'll end the session.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much, Jayanti, for joining us on today's session on cancer awareness. You provided us with some invaluable information through a very engaging session. So thank you so much. And would you like to tell them how to find you on social media?
Yes. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I really enjoyed having this conversation. And everybody, you can find me as Candid Cancer Conversation. Just type Candid Cancer Conversation on Instagram. You'll find me on Instagram. I also have a page on Facebook. You'll find me on Facebook. So choose your media and follow me. I will try and give you good information with some entertainment for sure.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a
Bye-bye.
good day. Bye.
Thank you.